And I guess we're live and direct from the Coach MC studio. Welcome, creative community. It's such a pleasure to welcome you back to this wonderful little time that we have for ourselves every Sunday when it's coming down to live Sunday acting, working shops, class, mastery, getting into your system, exercise the tools, getting better with whatever you have in mind, whether you're an actor, a performer, an entertainer. This is your studio. This is your Sunday Live. Welcome, everybody. And let's all get better together. And right away, activate the bell, smash the subscribe button, and leave a like just to, push this chat forward. Welcome, everybody, to this new live chat that we're going to have about such an important topic that will immediately boost us forward long term whenever it comes down to deliver our speech, whenever it comes down to deliver our message, to really come across as an authentic and impactful communicator when you're standing in front of the camera, in front of your board meeting, in front of the audience, inside of the room, whenever you need to impact the counterpart's brain. This is one of the greatest tools that you can use forever, exercise right away, and where you will realize the improvement pretty quickly. So it's something that will be your shield and your sword at the same time. And I'm more than happy to deliver all this. My name is Lorenzo, aka the Coach MC. And I'm a coach now for over 10 years and an actor for over 30 years. And one of the most important things that I can take away from the magnificent, the incredible experience that I've so far collected, it's all written down today, because all that I've learned always tries to get refurbished and tries to get a new aspect. When you're really a creative mind, then you can't stop with the product. You need to improve it. You need to get forward with the product. You need to always stand out. You need to have fun in the process. So over the last incredible years that I've spent in front of the camera, also being on set almost every day, one of the most important things that I've learned is sometimes we have oscillations in how we feel. Sometimes we have better days, sometimes we have worse days, sometimes things go sideways for external reasons. But if you got your craft, your tools, your toolbox, if it's cleaned up, if you always got the right instruments in there, and if you practiced with those instruments, and you are sure on how to use them in the most efficient way, then even the worst days of your life, whenever you need to act, whenever you need to communicate, whenever you need to impact in the audience will be the best days of your future, because you can only improve when you have your toolbox ready. You can only improve when you have, a set of instruments ready that really belong to you. And when you really know what you're talking about, then you are a pro. So what I'm about to disclose today in our top secret mission video is one of the greatest things that you can forever have with you, if you really are willing to put in consistent amount of work, practice, exercise, and passion into crafting this tool into a very powerful weapon for your artistic endeavors whenever you need to kind of display the magnificence that you have inside in a structured, beautiful, and impactful way. It's all about coming over as clearly as possible, because we are storytellers. We need to illustrate a story, where we're coming from, where we're going to, what our conflicts are, what just happened, what your mission is. We need to tell a story. We need to indulge people. We need to create images that will eventually pop up in our counterpart's brain. We need to ignite and inspire the audience and everybody who's watching us, because they need to follow our thoughts. They need to follow our chains of ideas and thoughts, and they need to kind of walk with us in their imagination. And how can we achieve that? Because that is what great performing is all about. That is basically what great acting is about: being a great storyteller and getting the audience on your side and walking alongside your story is one of the most beautiful things, because it inspires people. It takes people away from their seats, from their everyday habits and quarrels and problems and chores and duties, and all of a sudden they can escape with you, because they feel entertained, they feel that you just brought them somewhere else, and they will be forever grateful for that, and become great fans of yours. And one great tool, one of the most important tools, is to speak clearly and efficiently, with impact, authenticity, genuinely, about what you are all about in this very moment, in this very instant, when you get called to action. Because remember, a scene always happens in the middle of life. There is a back story, there is something that happened previously, and that what happened, that fires you up, that ignites the engine, that's why you're there. But if you don't speak clearly, it's like driving a car without tires. All the energy that you've accumulated beforehand, all the story, the background work that you did on your role during your audition prep to get this character out of the mud and electrify him, right? And have this beautiful container where you kind of beam yourself in, and then have this imaginary experience that is so beautiful. But the clearer you come across with what you're saying as the imaginary life, the better the world, the imaginary world, will come alive as well, and more realistic it will appear to the audience. And that will contribute to make this whole experience more holistic, more beautiful, more genuine, and more impactful. So speaking clearly is about you, and you only. Open up the gate to what you have inside in the most efficient, beautiful manner, because that means that you are willing to pay the price also for making a mistake, but that you're willing to risk something. Because before we jump into the tools of today's session, and I kind of welcome everybody in the chat room, I just want to emphasize on this fact that most of the times when actors are not speaking clearly, when communicators are not completely, sharp with their message, and kind of trying to wing it, or trying to fill it up with words that really don't belong there, when speeches are getting too long, when people start ranting about things that are really not part of the context or of the initial idea of why the speech actually started, when actors on stage that need to hold a big monologue, a big speech, like a messenger speech, right, from the Greek mythology, where there's always this messenger coming up, or a Shakespearean messenger coming up and telling about something that just happened, and because of that, the chain of events will affect actually the characters that are right now listening to all of this. Right? When you have those types of situations, it's about letting go and not being scared, and enjoying the beauty of the words, enjoying the magnificence of the word, the stupendity of the words, and really indulge yourself with what the words actually mean. So before we start with the tools, you need to understand that most of the times when we don't speak clearly, it's because we're afraid of the words, because we haven't exercised them thoroughly and fully and completely, because maybe we don't have a clear idea about what we are actually saying, because we actually don't know what we're saying. So before we kind of exercise and use techniques and instruments and all that, please make sure, creative community, to get acquainted with the words, to get a real connection with what you're saying, with what it really means. And if there's anything that kind of sounds strange, or where you actually don't know what it means, then look it up. Don't just say things that you don't know the content from, because that will make the word, or what you're saying, appear shallow, appear flavorless, appear bland, because there is no substance in it, there is no ignition in it, there is no traction. Again, not knowing what you're saying and speaking unclearly means driving a car without tires. You can't really put traction to your energy. So as a character, when we're jumping into the imaginary life, like I said, we're jumping into the middle of the life, right in the middle, where things are actually boiling up, where the big climax is actually happening, because that's most interesting to watch, where the conflict is happening, where the clashes are going on. So we need that fire bundle to be lit up and fully maximized and energized. We need that transition, we need that tension, right? We need that voltage. But that voltage, if you don't translate it into traction, if you don't put steam behind the words, because you haven't exercised them, because you don't know the actual meaning, because they kind of sound strange to you, if you don't do that work, you kind of lose big chunks of your potential of the imaginary life. and it feels like you're not in there, you're not at the degree, the temperature is not at the degree that is substantially necessary for that type of impact that you love to have in that very moment, in that scene. Let me know in the comment section if that makes sense to you guys before I welcome everybody in the chat room, because that's so fundamental before we even start with today's lesson, to really have an appreciation of the idea that the words that you're saying, they're your ally, they're not your enemy. Sometimes I feel many actors, creators, also because of the time pressure, it's not about judging anybody, right? But sometimes it is so, we take it for so granted what we're saying, or maybe sometimes we're just too lazy to exercise, or there's really like a time problem going on, that we try to wing the words that we don't like, we don't get really a connection to the words and to the lines, and so our speech becomes less effective. When we're talking about speaking clearly, and what our mission today is here at the Coach MC Studio, and by the way, subscribe if you haven't so far, and ring the bell, of course, for the notifications. When we are jumping into this imaginary life, the words are our ally, they are our weapon of choice. They express what the character, what the imaginary life is about. So no other words should be more important than the word that you're trying to say. And it's not about being crystal sharp, clear like a diamond cut. It's not about being a mumbler all the time. It's about defining the common sense impact that the context of the character needs, and then to display it in the most magnificent, genuine, impactful way that is authentic to you and to you only. Does that make sense? Before we start with everything, that's the fundamental part of it. Speaking clearly means speaking in the right context, fun, joy, and appreciation of the magnificence of the words that we have the privilege to pronounce, because there we have this unique opportunity to use the words as allies. In the real world, words sometimes are the enemy. In the room, words are our friends, our allies, our family. Use them as such, appreciate them as such, hug them, right? Love them. And with that generosity, spread them. So people will get infected by your imagination, by your world and how you describe your world. People will get infected by it. They get polluted by the way you pronounce words and appreciate words. And there is no difference, because we all are different. So everybody has his own appreciation, his own favorite words, his own way of saying things. So everybody's beautiful here. Let's welcome everybody in the chat room. Annie Boo, hello. Thank you so much for joining once again to our Sunday live acting chat. Good evening, Coach MC. Rosita Macarons, you're here as well. Thank you so much. It's a privilege. It's beautiful to have Serena Tazinato in the chat as well. Ciao Lorenza, grazie per i tuoi video. She says thank you, and sono sempre interessanti, utili per tutti. Grazie, buona domenica. They're always useful, and have a great Sunday, everybody. Yes, let's welcome everybody, and let's all have a great Sunday, and let's put some steam behind our engine, or inside of our engine, I might add. And let's exercise our clarity of speech. Let's exercise our words. Let's exercise our tongue. Let's get into it, and let's have a lot of fun, shall we? So the first tip, when we get the script, when we get the sides, whenever we have our speech ready, is, of course, to read it out loud. Read it out loud by decreasing the usual speed that you have in reality, because out there we speak very fast. Information happens very fast in the real world. Whenever we go outside, we are pressured, right? We're running against time. So usually our speech patterns in the real world, they are pretty fast. We want to get over with our chores, with our duties, with whatever we're trying to do during the day to get back to to our home. So usually we speak a bit faster than it would be actually necessary, right? Sometimes our speech also gets a bit sluggish, and sometimes we kind of eat words or consonants or syllables, right? Sometimes it gets a bit lazy when we're out there. So coming back to the text also means coming back to us, coming back to the real us, right? Because that's the beauty of being an actor or a communicator, somebody who needs to kind of sell, somebody who needs to illustrate other worlds. And that's the beauty of telling a story. We are storytellers. So we need to listen to the storytellers. And usually if you listen to a great audiobook, to an audible, whatever, and you or a podcast, the great podcaster, they speak clearly and slowly. You can kind of follow their chains of ideas and whatever they are trying to recollect or trying to implement. You can clearly see the path of the speech. It is well organized. There is a nice pattern, a nice rhythm to it. You can tell these people who are reading those audiobooks and running those great podcasts that they're pros, and they know exactly that words also need some time to get appreciated by the frontal lobe, by our neocortex. If it happens too fast, then we get confused and our reptilian center backs away, and then the information doesn't really trickle through completely. It gets severely truncated and then kind of passed on to the neocortex in a very strange way. So we don't really appreciate the full content of the information, of the monologue, of the story that is unfolding right now in front of our eyes. So let's make it a bit slower than usual, right? Use some common sense, of course. Don't make it too slow, right? But then it sounds like a recruit, right? It doesn't need to be that slow, but make yourself acquainted with the words by reading them out loud, clearly and slowly, and appreciate the sound of the words, of the resonance, of the frequency of each and every syllable, right? Speak them out loud, slowly, and clearly. And what one member of the Coach MC studio always likes to say: don't rush. There is no need to rush, like I'm doing right now, trying to calm myself down and put myself in the position that I can pronounce and announce every D, every T singularly. So I can take a little breath, maybe even, right? Speak out slowly. Enjoy the beauty of the words. Don't take them for too granted, right? Just play around with them and feel, their resonance, their weight, their mass, because every word has a mass. And if we don't exercise our words, and if our speech is ineffective and not clear enough, then we're missing out on great chunks of the potential that every critical mass of each and every word that we are pronouncing contains. And so we kind of, leave the most precious parts of our speech, of our monologues. We just leave it on the table just because we're assuming that the story itself is so grand and so beautiful that we don't need to take care so much specifically about the words. But that's a shame. We shouldn't do that. There's a reason why those words were put on paper. There's a reason why you're there. So everybody needs to execute his part. And you need to kind of, take that part into your system, and don't leave out the chunks that you don't like because you're too lazy, because you think you don't need them, or because maybe you don't value them enough by not really understanding what they're about. So that's the biggest tip right away. Be pretty severe with that and exercise clearly, loudly, slowly, by reading out loud, and maybe then by having 60 minutes every day, really putting yourself in front of the text and really understanding where this text comes from, and by pronouncing it and whispering it and screaming it top of your lungs, by being loud, by being a bit quieter, but by having a full understanding of the sound, of the resonance, of the critical mass of the words, it will help you tremendously. First of all, to kind of get this word into your system and never forget it in the way you've pronounced it correctly and rightly, right? That will stick with you because the right resonance will always appear in your muscle memory. So the more you exercise this, right? Take 60 minutes off your day and do this for 21 days, and then record yourself each and every day, and you will see the slow but constant process with doing this, which is very, very powerful, because resonance also creates a nice environment for your inner water. And I'm not joking here. Yes, we're based 75% on water. And guess what? Water is based on crystals. And guess what? The more resonance, positive resonance the water has, the better it oscillates, and the more beautiful and more symmetrical the patterns are with which the water is resonating, the more beautiful, stable, and symmetrical the crystals will appear to be. And this is you, my friend, because you are the crystal, you are the water. So the more perfect and stable the water inside of yourself, because you're pronouncing things with the right resonance, it resonates with you. So you appear and come across as way more believable because you're resonating with the words. Now you found the right frequency with your speech, with your monologue, with what you're about to say. So it becomes way more believable because it's part of the symmetry that you already produce for yourself inside of yourself. And that is so, so powerful. And it's not me saying that. There is tons of research upon this matter. If you just write like a sticker, a tag on a cup of water, like a glass of water, and you just write down something horrible on that sticker, and then you take another glass of water and you write something beautiful on that sticker and just place it on those glasses of water, and you just place them in the fridge, after 24 hours, you can start to analyze the water deteriorating under the microscope. You can see that the crystals where the horrible stuff is written on, they start to splinter up, and they don't seem to kind of consistently. No, you have to freeze the water, exactly, and then you analyze it afterwards, and you can clearly see under the microscope that where the horrible stuff was written on, the crystals appear to be not totally symmetric, not totally stable. They start having cracks, and they don't look as beautiful and splint and stable as the crystal under the microscope, where the beautiful stuff was written on the glass of water, where we can clearly see that the crystal is super sharp, super stable, very symmetrical, and upholds the frequency. And this is happening to you when you're speaking out clearly and effectively. If you really have resonance with your words, then you will have resonance with your message, and then the audience will resonate with you. Does that make sense? Please let me know in the comment section below. Anibu, as a speech therapist, this is also something I always tell my patients who have some problems with pronouncing everything clearly. It is important to give the words the time they need and deserve. Absolutely. Thank you so much for this great comment. Every word has a certain time. Every word needs a certain breath, right? So calm yourself down by taking a deep breath, right? This is what I always like to say also in my meditation. So you might check out our meditation playlist. Also a great way of calming down your nerves, of getting in tune with yourself and connect to your product, which will also help you to speak more clearly and more effectively. So you can, after this live chat, you can go and check out our meditation playlist that will help you tremendously, and give us feedback, because our meditations, we hold them dearly. This is something that we truly love doing at the Coach MC studio, because that's another portion, that's another element that we kind of include in the potion that we drink to become better performers. One of the magical portions we distill here, right? So for you people to get enjoyed. And let me know also if you got any other questions going on with your speech, with the clarity, with effectiveness and rhythm. If you got any other quests going on with your communicational endeavors, with your artistic endeavors, or your artistic behavior, just reach out. It's the coachmc.studio. Let me know in a nice email what's going on, what you need. Let's work effectively on something that will redirect you on the right path, and kind of fortify your craft and your tools, so you can step up your game in a remarkable way. Because when you're uniquely prepared, then you can remarkably share. Never forget that, because the better we prepare ourselves, the better we come across. Never take one single audition for granted. Always put the maximum effort in there and just show your work, share who you are, right? Second tip. Sometimes the context changes, of course, our speech and the patterns and the meaning behind it, and what we try to convey. And as a character, let's say we have a scene at a funeral where we have to kind of talk with the main character, or we are the protagonist, and maybe it's us, the soliloquy that we kind of that we have to propose to the people there, or talking to someone else. So there might be scenes at a funeral, right? And the context of a funeral is completely different than the context of being at a party. So the way we are talking at a party is different in ways of acceleration, velocity of speed, of our words and how we say things, the velocity of our speech. and also, you know, the increasing volume. Maybe we have to communicate over the loud music. So there, you know, we have different frequencies that are placed in different contexts that kind of give us a big hint on how we should use our speech, and that right away gives us an idea of what we should prepare more focusedly when it comes down to that audition that kind of requires something special. But in a general context speaking, what I'm kind of observing, because of the amount of information that's going on in the real world and the amount of noise that we have to take in and that we get in, even if we don't want to, we really should get back to basics sometimes and really reanalyze our speech patterns and our speech in a very efficient way, and always asking ourselves, is it clear that I'm asking a question? Is it clear that I'm making a statement? Is this an affirmation? Is this a suggestion? Where I'm coming from? What kind of context am I placing my lines here, right? Because that gives us already like a big clue on where we should go with the intensity, with the velocity, and how we should reflect on the words, and where we should place them in terms of, in the rhythmical exchange. What do I want to really emphasize here? And so one good way of exercising this is really over enunciating your speech, really making it slow or fast as much as you like, but over enunciating. Because think of this: I'm coming from a theater background. I played a lot of theater, also big stages. We're talking about 1,200, 1,300 people, open air stages, sometimes even without a microphone. And we're talking about Shakespearean plays and classical German plays. So really heavy stuff in terms of content and, linguistical kind of entrenchments and things that were based on a rhythm, on wordplays and all that. So also pretty difficult to kind of, display on a constant high level of intensity, because you really need to focus. Because if you lose the rhythm, if you lose the rhyme, if you lose the right inflection, then the sense doesn't really come over of the whole line. So it was kind of a beautiful and very demanding work, standing on stage in front of so many people and trying to reach everybody and making perfectly clear what your character is about, but at the same time respecting the context of the scene. Talking about Shakespeare plays, many times, the characters in a Shakespeare play, they meet at night in secret. There's a conspiracy going on. It's like a grave, a tunnel. It's kind of very strange places where you need to speak quietly, whispering softly, and all that. But still, you had to reach everybody in the audience. So working on such a grand scale, on such a big theater stage, and such a big auditorium means that you're working with a chainsaw. Your actions and your speech needs to be big and sharp and full of contrast. It needs to reach everybody. It's big movements, it's big noise, and at the same time it needs to sound intimate and private and beautiful and all that, right? So when you're working on the theater stage and there is this big auditorium, there's this big theater hall, then you have to make sure that your words are really reaching everybody till the last row. Everybody needs to perceive perfectly what you're saying. And that means that you need to exaggerate when you are rehearsing your lines at home, that you need to go out and put yourself in a position where you need to kind of, put a family member 100 foot away from you. And that family member needs to understand everything you're saying, right? Just reach him, reach her, right? And that's so important to work with this idea that you really have to come across as loud and big and sharp. That's the chainsaw. That's the theater. That's the theater world. That's the theater stage, the big stage. If it's a smaller stage, then it's still working with an axe, right? Because still, even let's say it's 400 people in the auditorium, that's still a bunch of people. That's still a lot of people. You need to fill up that room. So you need to work with an axe. And when you're working in front of the camera, it gets reduced again. Then you need to work with a scalpel. And if you're working in front of a cinema camera, right, it's even more focused. And then you're working with a laser. So by scaling up and down constantly, when you're over enunciating and while you're practicing your speech, You understand what kind of intensity scales you got inside of your system. You explore yourself, discover things about how you can reach higher and higher and higher. And now you can decrease the intensity when you exercise this constantly and relentlessly, and you push your boundaries always over and over and over and over and over again. You will realize, now I got control over my intensity, because that's super important as well. When you are speaking clearly, sometimes the character that you have to interpret is someone who maybe is wounded, right? Or has a problem with the pronunciation. Maybe that's a character that is mumbling all the time, but still, if you think about Johnny Depp or even Daniel Day-Lewis, sometimes in one, some of his roles, he speaks very inside of him. So the words are not really kind of, jumping, right? They are not really coming full steam forward. It's very private, it's very intimate. Sometimes you might think, all right, that was very unclear, right? But still the conceptual meaning of the scene upholds, because he understands the context of the character that he's displaying and of the scene. And so everything that he's saying, when you look at Daniel Day-Lewis, Johnny Depp, Michael Shannon, everything these actors are saying, even though they might not be the clearest actors in terms of speech all the times, you still understand the conceptual meaning of what they're saying. You still understand what they're saying. And that I mean also by speaking clearly from the heart, what the context of the scene requires, and adapt that to the character. And then you have that great mixture, that great chemistry going on that really hits people. We have some comments from Julie22. She's waving. Hey, what's up? Rosita Macarons, you're right. We don't have to forget the basics, but keep practice them. Yes, of course, we need to. This is basic stuff, but we tend to forget stuff like that. We take it for granted. We get distracted by other things. We invest a lot of time in different acting techniques about getting to the character and its core, and working with different essential techniques about how you reach that emotional status and that core temperature, and what your character should be all about. That's all beautiful. That's the emotional side, and that's the mysterious, the dark side, the hidden world, the inner kingdom of the character. By all means, that's absolutely necessary. But the rational side, the contextual side, the side that really brings over the message and tells the story, that it comes more from a rational standpoint. It's more left side of the brain than right side of the brain. And so that needs to be exercised and practiced too, and kind of always refurbished, always take a closer look through the magnifying lens. Am I still doing everything right? Like basic stuff. Like, do I know that when I'm, asking a question, my voice should ascend in the pitch at the end of the sentence, right? It should ascend, it should go up. Like sometimes I hear actors, and just by listening to them, I don't really understand if it was a question or a statement, or if it was sarcasm or irony. You need to kind of look closer and magnify them again, because everything has a certain standpoint, a certain rhythm, a certain volume, a certain clarity. Everything needs its message, and everything needs to be if you're putting everything into that soup, then you can't distinguish the single ingredients anymore, and then it gets a bit messy, right? And your character gets obfuscated by not coming across as sharp as he could. Again, you're wasting potential. So don't be afraid, because usually that's just being afraid of the work. Usually that's our ego telling us, no, we're great already. We don't need this, right? Oh, good. Go to hell with all this practice and exercise. I'm already the message. Yeah, we are. That's beautiful. The emotional core and all that. That is the message by all means, but we need to contextualize the message as well and frame it with our words, right? And the better we frame it, the better our emotional core comes across, and the better the mixture works. We come across as being a way more holistic product. That's what I'm trying to tell you guys. It's not to diminish your work, it's to boost your work long term, right? To have that long goal in mind, that if you exercise this every day, 60 minutes, like 30 minutes in the morning and 30 minutes in the evening. So you have the logical side, right? according to the daily circadian rhythm, and also the creative side, the magical side in the evening, and put those 30 minutes together, exercise your words, practice fundamental and basic things, and you will see how that will improve your delivery, your artistic delivery. Because the better you feel with the words, the faster you can adapt to each and every scene. The better you have your instruments under control when it comes to linguistic abilities, the faster you can adapt any audition coming in, like on a short notice. Yeah, we need to self-tape tonight, right? So this will also help you to stand out, compared to your competitors, compared to the other players in the room. Because the better I understand what your story is all about, the longer I stick with your performance, the more I will think about afterwards. The higher I take you, the higher I take you on my inner scale of appreciation of your quality, of your overall quality. So the more I will appreciate you as a performer. Does that make sense? Please let me know. It's truly important. So we need to practice also by over enunciating those things, and stay high on a constant high output plateau of great quality speech, and try to put these words out as loud as you can and really understand, and don't be scared. And if you think, well, I don't have time to practice all this, right? Because there's so much work going on in my life. I got kids, I got a side hustle, I need to, run my errands every day. Well, guess what? When you're running your errands, when you are driving somewhere to the postal office, or your dog, or when you're buying something at the grocery store, right? You need to drive there, you need to go there, you need just to walk, right? So practice your speech while you're walking, and running your errands. Sometimes we take a shower, after running all those errands, we might stink, and so we need to take a shower before we sit on the dinner table. So again, practice under the shower. Sometimes we walk our dog, practice. We are mowing our lawn, practice. There are many little pockets of time, spread all over the day, that we kind of overlook, because they are just part of our automatisms and daily errands and chores. But there is actually a lot of potential, a lot of pockets where we kind of can use it even better and more efficient, and propel us forward and step up our game. Exactly that. And plus, when you are practicing your artistic stuff while doing mundane actions, while performing mundane actions, that's beautiful, because your brain is is kind of occupied with the action, maybe driving somewhere, so you need to kind of focus on a few things, but you're practicing your lines, so you're not over controlling, you're not you're superimposing your ego upon your practice. And that is great, because that's a way of getting into your limbic system, and not just sticking with your neocortex and with your frontal lobe, and being in the logical system all the time. So performing automatisms and practicing creative stuff means that you get access way quicker to the emotional core of the meaning of your system of perception. And that gets the word propelled forward. That gives the word something special, instead of just practicing always in the same rational, severe, kind of coincised way. Also by fulfilling these everyday needs and deeds, and by filling the pockets of time with our practice, it gives us a great way of kind of put some variety into our exercises and the way we speak, because everything that we do affects us. If we always do the thing in the same manner, there's nothing new that we can perceive, there is no new input, and so the words, they will remain dry. And by always keeping a constant practice during those everyday things that we need to do, we always have more variety also inserted into the word, and more notions and more texture, and that gives more appreciation to our brain, and so we have more fun with juggling around with those words. So the benefits of this, they're just, I could go on forever. So you see how much time we actually have to improve, to become better, and to make sure that we will have more success in the future, by starting right now, today, without wasting any time. Just implement this. In your audition prep, you will become better. Record yourself, listen to yourself, and you will follow on your progress. Even if it's slow, it will be steady, because we're here in the long run. Ladies and gentlemen, this is not a sprint. It's the long run. It's the long game. It's the marathon. And after the marathon, there's another marathon. And we will have fun in the process, because there is no winning or no losing. It's always learning. When we win, we know exactly what worked. When we don't win, we've learned what we need to improve in order to win again. So don't be scared. Let's get to tip number 3. And hey, by the way, at the end, there will be a bonus tip. Yes, I know. Isn't that incredible? Let me know what you think about this. Give us a like of appreciation, because of course there's a bonus tip coming up at the end of this video. So stick with us till the end and you will get a very powerful tool on top of it. And that will help you also in an incredible way to become a marvelous performer, a remarkable actor, and a great communicator. So stay in there, stick with us. Betty Butter bought a bag of bitter butter. You're right. Betty Butter bought a bag of bitter butter. A bag of bitter butter was bought by Betty Butter. The beautiful tongue twister time is coming up, right? Tongue twisters are a great way of calibrating our speech, of really understanding the pronunciation and giving sharpness and contrast, even if it's in a very fast repetition going on, even if it's very high speed. With the tongue twisters, you can exercise your speech and your clarity. It's such a great way. And if you just go on, just type in Google and just, tongue twisters for actors, there's a ton of it. It's great material. Peter Piper packed a pack of pickled peppers, right? Peter Piper packed a pack of pickled peppers. Isn't that beautiful? Just go on with that and you will see how it opens up. Tongue twisters are a great and fun way of exercising clarity and also calming yourself down. If you do this little fun exercise before you have to go on the stage, or maybe you're just too nervous, just go in with a few tongue twisters, exercise them, and you will see, right, your mind is again not in the amygdala, stick with the fear and being scared and having nervosity and whatnot and stage fever and all that. To a certain degree, it's healthy and absolutely necessary. But when it's too much, maybe you just need a little tongue twister, fun time with yourself and eating an apple afterwards, then you're fresh and ready to go. Exercise tongue twisters as much as you can, because they will, boost you forward as well a lot. Because tongue twisters are also about understanding how the rhythm is placed, right? Where the words are actually placed inside of that rhythm scheme of the line. So bum ba bum ba bum ba bum ba 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 bum ba bum ba bum ba bum. We don't exercise as much rhythm as we should, which will lead us in a couple of minutes to our bonus tip, which is so important, something that not a lot of people do. So I highly recommend you to stick with us till the end. So when you have tongue twisters, you have a line that is based on words that are absolutely necessary to explain what this little story of the tongue twister is about. There is nothing superfluous about any word in the tongue twister. Betty Butter bought a bag of bitter butter. Everything needs to be there. And this gives us also a great hint on something that we should by all means avoid. When we are presenting ourselves, maybe, the casting director at the end of the reading, he likes to know a little bit more about us. So he tells us like, hey, tell me a little bit about yourself. And now think about the tongue twister, about the efficiency of the tongue twister, where every word is there for a reason and is placed perfectly. And think about what is so great and impactful about this tongue twister, and why will never forget it. Why will you never forget your tongue twister? Because it's placed in there by the rhythm, and because every word needs to be there and there's nothing superfluous. Everything happens there for a reason. So when the casting director or the production officer, somebody there like sitting in the room is asking you, hey, tell me a little bit about yourself, just disclose a bit what you are all about, then keep it efficient, keep it short, like the tongue twister. Don't use any superfluous noise, signals, gap fillers, mental gap fillers, conversational gap fillers like, I guess, I know, stuff like that. Exercise your speech, your little pitch at the end of the reading. and with the maximum effort to keep it concise and compact, and really listen to yourself. Is this message, this little pitch at the end of my reading, is this giving out everything that the casting director needs to know about my current situation, about my current status? Is this just displaying and explaining clearly from what type of place I'm coming from right now and what really motivates and moves me right now? Because if it does, then you have a little perfect pitch at the end that leaves a lasting impression. If you don't keep it short, if you don't, just think about KISS, right? Keep it short and simple, clear, effective, telling everything about yourself, but not inserting anything that is not necessary. Think about the tongue twister and the importance of exercising your speech, but also think about the tongue twister about the efficiency in terms of what is in there in terms of content, and keep it like that. So you leave a lasting impression, because it's like reading an instruction manual, right? It's everything is in there. Now I know how to build up this furniture piece. Now I know exactly what this character is about. Now I know what motivates and moves and what this actor is passionate about. That's everything I need to know right now. I know it's kind of a big leap here, maybe, in terms of, what has the tongue twister to do with my pitch? But in a way, a pitch needs to be very efficient. It needs to be sharp, full of contrast, maybe funny, and kind of unique, and needs to contain novelty. It needs to be non-threatening. It needs to be concise, short, simple, thought in very little chunks without any superfluous noise. It's a tongue twister in a way. It doesn't really rhyme, but the pitch is a tongue twister in a way. So it's not that far away, like thinking about the metaphor between keeping it short and simple and having a tongue twister idea at the end when you're pitching yourself and you are finished with the reading, because the casting director likes to know a little bit more about you. And that could happen also at a party, at an event, at different locations. People could, run into you like, oh, I saw you at the casting office tonight. Like, tell me a little bit about yourself. What you doing here? Who do you know here? And what type of actor are you? Like, boom, you got it. This is what I'm about. This is my product. This is my enunciation. Bomb. Now I have an idea. And it's great, because we need to have an idea, about the character, about the actor. We need to have an idea about what this actress is all about. Let's get, after touching my chin after a long time, I thought, right, is there anything else I can tell you, like in terms of practical advice that you can implement right away to get a clearer speech, to really know effectively what you're saying, to come across as a very sharp, professional, and authentic, impactful communicator? There is tons of material available in the internet. You can search so many resources about how to speak clearly. But I think the most important part before we get to the bonus tip is always to remind yourself, you win the battle before you fight it. You win the war before you fight it. That's Sun Tzu, I think, right? The art of war. So knowing exactly what you're saying before you need to say it lets you win the battle inside of the room, and will make you a way more believable and remarkable performer. Don't wait to get called to action to start the action. That means read as much as you can. Clear, effective speech comes also from knowing a lot of words, having a great vocabulary, knowing exactly what you're saying, but also reading different type of material. Don't put a monoculture into your head, because if everything that you read is all about acting, then your whole system will just revolve around that, which is not that bad to focus in terms of career strategy and plan A, plan B, and all that. But when it comes down to the speech, our instruments, they need to get trained in various ways, because we never know what the character could actually say or what the character's background story actually is. So it could be something completely crazy and fancy. So why don't you exercise that before you get called to action? So read essays, read magazines, read instruction manuals, read a lot of different stuff, read different books, technical books, novels, and science books as well. Get into different topics with your reading, because not only is that great for your brain, for your concentration, for calming down your nerves, for getting a better idea of what you're saying and all that, but it trains your instruments, right? Like literally your instruments of pronunciation. It trains your instruments to, pronounce all sorts of different things, and speak and say all sorts of different crazy words, and getting into different topics helps you to kind of stay motivated also, because if you're just focusing on one thing over and over and over again, it kind of, it kind of tires our brain, it tires our instruments, saying the same things over and over again, or dealing just with the same lines over and over again, and not really practicing the fertile soil through which those words should actually shoot up when it comes down to kind of naturally displaying them in front of the camera or on the stage whenever we get called to action. So read, make a list of your favorite words, of your favorite adjectives, and go through them, and kind of, create some poetry on your own. Write something down, like with your hand on a sheet of paper and a pen, this crazy stuff, beautiful invention. You can't even imagine where you can go with just this, right? Write down some beautiful stuff, and really appreciate the beauty of your message, of your words, of your lines, because there's always beauty in there, and appreciate the beauty. Don't take it for too granted what you can actually create and ignite, because you may be not even aware of your potential. You're not even aware of what you can actually do in your counterpart's brain whenever you're pitching something, whenever you're trying to communicate, whenever you're in front of your board, whenever you feel like, no, I'm scared, I'm insecure, I'm inconsistent. Well, guess what? Then practice before, because then you will get traction, you will get control over your instrument, and it will become easier and easier in the process, and you will become a way more efficient and remarkable performer and communicator. And as such, you feel also more self-aware. The awareness, your self-awareness, and the consistent amount of work that you will, put into action starting from today, right? That you will put into action to gain that traction will increase your self-esteem, your self-value, and will, lower your stress hormones, will lower the anxiety levels inside of your system. It will lower the inner voices and the critical voices that there are in the negative thoughts and all that. And you will get, your appearance, you will shine through the words, you will touch the people more and more. The less insecure you are, the more load you get rid of, the softer and quicker and swifter and more effective you can, tackle the words, tackle the scene. And by letting go, you disclose what your most beautiful inner core is all about, right? And that creative, beautiful child that needs also a bit, protection, of course, but it needs to be fortified, and it needs to have self-esteem. Your inner child needs to have that propulsion, needs to have that appreciation, and that is the essential work that you need, to give and to deliver and to cater to that inner child that you have inside of your creative heart, because that will kind of grow with you, and that will again, create that thicker skin, that second layer that you will need, to have success in this crazy wacky business and industry. So by reading, you're reinforcing, and by reinforcing, you're allowing yourself to create, and that ability will grow and become something marvelous that you can't even start to kind of figure out right now. And I'm speaking of experience here, because this process is also my process that I'm describing, things that I've went through, because I was arrogant, I was stuck up, I thought I have it all, I thought I was the gift to the acting world, and everybody should just admire and venerate me. And then I've learned it the hard way, that I wasn't just doing my homework. Yes, maybe there was some talent, and there is some talent, and there is like a fire bundle, but it needs structure, it needs traction, it needs to be understandable, it needs to be clear. I was just a bubble, a chaotic mass, and I started to kind of, dig out the channels and fortify those channels, so the stream of energy could flow efficiently into one direction. into the direction of greatness. And I'm not saying that I've achieved that. I'm far away from that. But now I feel I have control more and more. And that makes me appreciate my work more and more. And that gives me the force, the strength to wake up when I don't want to, and to put in the great work to make it more and more believable and more remarkable, and to involve my spirit more and more, and protecting it at the same time by letting go of the stuff that is unnecessary and just focus on what's really necessary to propel our creative message forward. Let's get to the bonus tip. I shouldn't really do this. This should be like premium content. Again, just hit the subscribe button and let me see through that little thumbs up, and let also see the algorithm, what you appreciate and value, because that is truly important to kind of, help us here at the Coach MC Studio to grow and to get to more and more people, and to let this creative community be a great and thriving, great creative community, and get better and stronger and further in the process all together, right? So to have more clarity, and to have a better speech, and to have a better linguistic output whenever you get called to action, whenever you need to illustrate, communicate, and tell a story, a powerful story, a compelling story, your story. A great way to exercise this is to think in clusters when it comes down to words and what they mean and how they sound, right? It's not about what you're doing. We're all actors, but it's about how we're doing it. That's why it's called magic, yeah? Because the how is the magic. That's our secret ingredient. That's what we can add. That's our spice, our very unique personal spice. And that spice comes through various channels. It comes from different and various sources. We can drain it from different materials and instruments, but one for sure great way is to exercise our speech in clusters and arrange it with music. Bum 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 ba bum bum ba bum 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 ba bum bum ba bum. Thank you, John Williams. But for sure, think in clusters. Why? Because it helps us to organize words, ideas, and big chunks of information in our brain. Let's say we have the words that are ending with the suffix IZE, right? IZE, right? That's our cluster. So all words that are ending with the suffix IZE are in our cluster. But of course, there are many groups of words with many different letters. So how do we do that? So what we do is, on a sheet of paper, again, isn't that beautiful paper, right? We just write down our IZE. And of course, this is now into the wrong direction. But if you have a cluster that ends with IZE, then what you do is take out a list of words, let's say 7-letter words that are ending with the suffix IZE. And now arrange them in your mind by writing them first, of course, down on a sheet of paper, and just see what you can arrange around this cluster. So if you think about the 7-letter words, I've prepared something, of course, and just write down, okay, how many words do I find? I got real, eyes, I got item, eyes, I got utilize, right? I got a lot of words that I can combine, 7-letter words that I can extract from the internet if I want, with with this ending cluster IZE, and arrange them in this first cluster of 7-letter words. Let me know if it all makes sense, right? Our first cluster that we learn, 7-letter words ending with IZE. And so now I turn on some music, let's say a nice hip hop instrumental beat in the background. And I got my first cluster that I like to learn on my own, just to practice. And this is a very, very powerful tool, guys. So if you follow up on this and you really constantly practice this, you will see amazing results. I promise you that. This is something that I did for myself because I'm from a rapping hip hop background. I always rapped. I was always involved with music, always creating beats, always freestyling, always in the booth, always present on jams. I was part of the initial hip hop culture movement, spraying, graffiti art, all that. So to me, freestyling and poetry was like everyday practice. And I've realized that I can translate this into my acting endeavor, and by getting better at my acting, with my acting and with my craft, and also with my speech, by using some little techniques from the hip hop world, from the rap music world. For instance, freestyling can function in so many ways. You don't need to have whatever complicated constructs to start, but what you need some rhymes. And by writing down a few words that are always ending with the same suffix, you have the rhyme already set, and so you can kind of loosely start to create your own little story, because again, we're storytellers. And the more we practice this with all the different aspects of the beauty of storytelling, because sometimes we might think, well, storytelling, that's just acting or just reading, but there are so many aspects of it. There's rap, there's podcasts, there are audiobooks, there is all sorts of communication going on when it's about storytelling, and the medium through which the storytelling process can be presented to the audience. So exercise with this. Have a great instrumental going on, like a nice hip hop beat, and then you have your ICE suffixes, right, and your 7-letter words. And you have realize, itemize, utilize, so you baptize, ironize, so you odorize, you stylize because you baptize, agonize because you baptize, because you atomize, because you oxidize, mid-size because you realize that you itemize, that you utilize, right? And you just go back and forth with this, and you just exercise this. And then all of a sudden, if you do this really constantly and really like for a consistent amount of time, like say 30 minutes, you realize this cluster now starts to belong to me. I start to appreciate the words better. I start to understand them better. I can now place them in a column. And these words I will keep forever. So I practice this a week straight, let's say 7-letter words. And then I go on in the second week with the 8-letter words. And then I go on in the third week with the 9-letter words. Or I'm coming back to the 7-letter words if I kind of lost some of them. And I go on and on and on with this process. Put some music underneath it. So I put it into a rhythmical context. And plus, the music helps me also to remember because it triggers emotions. So I have the deeply emotionally anchored word in my limbic system that I've already arranged in a cluster where I exactly know what all words are all about, that I can use if you wake me up at 5 a.m. in the morning and just throw me out of bed right away, in an impactful, genuine, and very powerful way. And this is how words stick with you. This is how words start resonating with you, through music, through the power of repeating it in a rhythmical, arranged way. Rap just means rhythmically arranged poetry. And when it's rhythmically arranged, it goes into our emotional core. And so we don't stay in our rational mind, we absorb them through our emotional core, through our limbic system. So they stick with us way longer and they go way deeper. And this is what creating and acting and performing is all about: going deep, working the deep craft, the subconscious hidden craft, as well as the beautiful and stylish visible craft. Both worlds need to intersect, they need to intertwine, and the event horizon is you, is the manifesting body. It's the actor, it's the character that you are portraying, throughout the imaginary life, with those imaginary circumstances where you can be real, what you are perceiving and what you are creating. But the clearer you say it, the sharper it will come across. The more context it will have for the situation, the more believable your character will be. And that kind of installs a habit of quality. It installs a habit of practice. It installs a habit of appreciation of words that you deemed unnecessary or completely unknown before. Now they're becoming your most powerful tools to win the audition, to win the hearts of the audience, and get in there with maximum power and consistency, but less effort, with the right way, with the relaxed self-esteem mind that just gives you the, the right pace by breathing and clearly having it mapped out for yourself. That's how you become a great and remarkable performer. Ladies and gentlemen, I think we got to the end of this beautiful live chat. Thank you so much for everybody who was present. Any Buddhists really helped me when I was practicing my carnival speech. Thank you. Yes, that's absolutely great. Macaron, Rosita Macarons. Wow, thank you so much. Thank you so much for everybody who was present today. Thank you so much for listening and sticking with us till the end. If you did, if you liked the content, make sure to subscribe. And if you didn't like the content, thank you for being with us and staying with us till the end. But hopefully this will help you to become a true communicator, a true storyteller, a true actor and performer, somebody who really appreciates what he's doing. And don't take it for granted that we have the privilege to demonstrate that almost on a daily basis. You can do it right away with your cell phone, exercises right away, and put in the great work, implement this, become better, step up your game. And let us know in the comment section, in the DMs, give us feedback what your progress is like, what you're capable of, what your obstacles are. Share it with the community here. Shoot this video out to your creative community, because our mission here at the Coach MC Studios to become a thriving community of ever better performances, a great community for remarkable performances. And of course, Anibu, thank you for being such help and inspiration, Lorenzo. Of course, that's my mission here. Absolutely privileged and honored to do that. So shoot this video out there, subscribe to the channel, ring the bell for notification, join us on Instagram, where we have also some art adventures going on. It's the Coach MC, also Facebook as well. And just, stick with us till the next video is coming up, which will be pretty soon. And we have some great content coming up this year as well. And check out our meditation playlist. Don't forget to do that, because meditation is a big part of becoming clear, of having a very effective impact with your energy and with your speech. Meditation will give you another very subliminal, subconscious, very powerful tool to have that manifestation as sharp and clear as you want. So make sure to check out our meditation playlist and give us feedback on that. See you the next time, guys. Thank you so much. And now you're ready to perform. Clearly. Clearly.